round 2. Here we go.
Welcome back, everyone. And it's such a beautiful setting here. We are right in front of Vuyatela camp, close to Djuma Dam, watching this male impala and all of his ladies, hoping to see some mating. He's done really well and acquired a great patch of turf here close to the waterhole. As you can see, a lot of the females are grazing, so good food, good water, nice and open and safe. And there's a few males lurking on the outskirts that he keeps going and chasing away. So it's a combination of keeping the males at bay, but also finding the time to mate with all these ladies. And it's just for 1 month that they'll behave like this. A very short and intense rutting period. And let's see if we don't get lucky and actually witness him mating. He'll be trying, but females will only give in when they are at the perfect time, and that will vary over the 1 month. There certainly will be some ladies in season ready for mating now, and he's just got to find the right one. What I'm hoping is that the other males that are lurking nearby come in and try a cheeky maneuver and try and steal some of his ladies. And that will happen continually. He will have continual pressure from other males. His work is far from over, and he may only be able to maintain this high level of activity for a few days, maybe a week, before he's too exhausted to continue, and then another male will come in and take over. Now what I'm sure we are going to see sometime fairly shortly is a crazy audio display made by these animals. They make the most bizarre gurgling, burping roar during the rut. And it's been a while since he's done it, and I think he'll do it again fairly soon. He is now staring up towards the direction of another 2 big male impala that are kind of waiting their turn patiently up in some slightly longer grass on the fringe of this clearing. There we go, looking in the opposite direction. But you could well find there's... Oh, quickly! Oh no! We just missed them mating. But that's fine. We may well get another opportunity. I turned around and he had just dismounted, but it may happen again. Here we go. Oh, that wasn't very smooth. Well, I don't think that was a successful copulation, and that's why he may be trying again. But she seems to be giving off the impression that he's missed his opportunity. Or possibly she's just leading him a little bit further away from the rest of the herd for some privacy, but now he stopped. No, irresistible, this lady. And it looks like that lady's young calf from a few months ago. Oh, here we go. No. Well, there's that bizarre audio that I've been talking about. I'm just going to chat on the radio quickly. Excuse me for a second. Afternoon, Mike. Go ahead.
Afternoon, but just wanted to see your movements. I'm out on a bit of a bumble and didn't want to ride over anything you might be tracking.
Thanks, Mike. We're not following up on anything fresh from this afternoon. There was tracks of a male leopard that disappeared around the bush dinner sites on Quarantine, and Mark also had some female. Like this, so frantically. Oh, remember when the impala typically start to lamb. We can move on now, see what else is happening. I'm hoping that now that it's cooled down a little bit, the not far away from where we did have the last tracks of what looked to be a young male leopard. He walked probably 100 feet away from the house where some of us stay here at Djuma, which was highly frustrating to know that he was right there, so close to us at some stage while we were sleeping last night. And we woke up and started searching for him first thing, but still didn't have any luck. Okay, nothing yet. There was tracks, I'm not sure, they've probably been driven over, but yeah. And then they got down to the bush dinner site there and then lost them. That was this morning.
Alright.
Other than that, not too much. Mark had some tracks on Vuyatela access close to the gates of a female leopard with some drag marks this morning. Again, couldn't come up with anything. He said it was quite interesting. The drag mark appeared heavy initially and then got lighter and lighter and lighter until it disappeared. So
that's part of the wonder of the bush, eh?
Exactly.
Never quite figure it out.
Exactly.
Cool. Having a good drive?
Yeah, very good. A beautiful afternoon. Just been watching some impala mating.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a bonus.
Teaching some tracks.
Okay, good.
In the afternoon, teaching tracks and science to the students.
Good, Lee.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Cool. Thanks very much. Thanks. Cheers.
Bye.
I was going to go right, but now I'm going to go left. Okay. It is time. It's business time. A lot of people finish work at around this time of the day, but this is when Brian and myself start focusing. Come on. Just going to freewheel down this hill. It will allow us to just a little bit more than normal. We're quite lucky with these vehicles because they are petrol engines. They are quite quiet relative to the game viewers, which may often be diesel, and it really does help to be able to listen. Any noises you hear could help lead you to animals. Ah, cool. Hopefully these birds are going to hang around. Not the ones that have been flying down the road, the ones that are just, yeah. Stay. No. Oh, well done. Well done. Okay. Brian's too quick for me, and I didn't even realize he was on it. That's a really cool bird that we don't very often get to show you. We often hear them, and that was one we just heard calling on the left. It's got a very long red bill that you can see it probing in the cavities of that tree. And it's called a red-billed wood hoopoe, or a green wood hoopoe, is I think their most recent name. And look at it go, incredibly agile, hopping around upside down on that log, and that's where they find the majority of their food. They're really pretty birds, and they fly around in family flocks and often let off a loud cackling call to keep in touch with one another, and we can hear another one to the left of us calling. In Zulu they are called Hlegabafazi, which means cackling ladies or laughing ladies, and I'm hoping they're going to let their call ring out for us. I'm guessing they might, because it appears the flock is split up in two, and it's when you find the flock splitting up that you occasionally get them reuniting through this loud and disruptive communication that they have. It can be confused with the call of Aramark babblers. It sounds very similar. I always find it incredible to notice how many different animals can survive out here, and the reason for that is they all got their specific role, and just how you can see this bird feeding in and amongst the tiny cracks in that log, that's its little niche, and that's how it makes sure that it's always got enough food, because it's not going to be competing with too many other birds. Certainly woodpeckers, and there are other birds that will also feed in a similar fashion to that, but there are so many little different adaptations that all the animals have, creating this diverse and incredibly intricate system that works so well. And I often think to myself, it's incredible how well these animals do out here, and how many animals survive relative to how many animals would survive if we were to come in and plow the land and put some cows here, for example. It would just be the cows and maybe a few other birds, but the amounts of different animals that can all survive here sustainably is really interesting. Now, what's going on here? Looks like one lone baboon walked down the road. Can you believe it? There's no tracks of a troop, and we haven't seen a troop here for ages. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pull over here and show you the track. Oh, can you see it there? No, the angle's not right.
No, it's not too close.
Let me swing around a little bit. There it is. I'm just going to jump out quickly and put my hand in the track so you've got an idea of how it works. Sorry about the door. Wait. So you'll notice my right hand fits in very well. The vehicle has driven over the thumb, so there should be a little thumbprint over there, but there's not, and my hand's a little bit bigger than the baboon's hand, but you've got an idea of the direction and the animal that was here, and it really is interesting. One lone baboon. Not a good situation to be in. There are such social animals. I could think of nothing worse than being stuck out here alone, especially if you're used to being in a troop, a big family, lots of eyes and ears to make you feel safe and keep you safe and away from predators. hoping that the leopard that was in this area this morning has moved around a little bit. When they are moving, it's easier for other animals to see them and alert us to them by the alarm calls. And it also simply means that it'll be in a new place and not hiding wherever we couldn't find it this morning. The sun's just about to go down. We might be able to show you a glimpse of it, but we are on quite low ground here, so not in the ideal spot to be showing you a sunset. But you get an idea from Brian's camera work of the time of the evening and the beauty of the sky on the western horizon. It's a magical evening. The temperature is absolutely perfect now. Not too hot, not too cold. The wind that we were experiencing earlier has died down. And we have just found some fresh leopard tracks. Good, very good. Very, very good. He has come out and he has been here the whole day, lying under our noses. I think. When I drive this road, Church should confirm that for me. Where is he hiding? There were tracks up and down on the right hand side of the road there, and I would like to think I haven't missed them when I've driven past already today. They look quite nice and fresh. Now there should be a few more tracks around here. When in doubt, stop and listen. It's a go-to move that can often work. And while we stop and listen, I'm just going to take a few moments to double check these tracks. And
Scott, do you copy?
oh, Mr. Weiner. Go ahead, Mark.
Just to let you know if he's trying to get you.
Okay, copy, thanks. I've got everything plugged in here, so I'm not sure why I'm not copying them. If you don't mind letting them know that I'm going to focus on some fresh leopard tracks here, if you don't mind linking across to you. Well, folks, there's obviously a problem with my radio because the final control room hasn't been able to get a hold of me. So expect to link across to Mark at any moment. We'll see you later, and hopefully we'll find this leopard. We'll keep in touch.
I've just come back towards Vuyatela. We are actually, welcome back everybody, just by the way. Given up on finding, I've been doing some loops around the area where the giraffe were, where we saw leopard tracks, where we saw some leopard things, and coming back towards Quarantine, I wanted to see if we could find leopard tracks anywhere near here, because there was a sign of leopard in this area coming onto Quarantine early this morning, and also talk from Vuyatela that we were Impala shouting. But I think Scott's just picked up on some new tracks and he's going to be looking at that. One thing I wanted to show you, we've got an area that we've just come through over Zoe's Road. We don't talk about the grass as much, but I'll just go forward a little bit. A lot of these tall grasses that we have are actually thatching grass. And I'm guessing that a lot of this thatching grass has come about because seed has fallen off of the truck that brought thatching into the lodges. Now what's important about thatching grass, and this is why I think it's been brought in, because it's a relatively thin species of thatching grass. The thickness of the grass determines how well it's going to weather over the years, and if you can see down here at the base of the thatching grass, This is what we call the low-felt thatching grass. It is rather thick, and because it's rather thick, if I could break it, I'll show you. It's got a pretty thick and very spongy pith to it, and what happens is that can absorb moisture and it can start rotting. Whereas you get the thatching grass from a slightly different climate, what we call the high veld, up in an area known as Secunda. I know that we do have the odd viewer from Secunda, but the thatching grass that comes from Secunda is actually the best thatching grass of all, because it is a lot thinner, and so the water can't get into the pith of the grass and it can't rot from the inside out. And it's a lot tighter packed together when you've got many strands of thatching grass together. If I can find another piece just to show you how it would fit together. Now, what's critical about thatching, and when you are making a roof out of thatching grass, is the pitch of the roof. So anything from vertical to just over 40 degrees, I suppose 45 to maybe 50 degrees is optimal. Anything flatter than that, you're going to start getting a really serious problem, because ideally what you want to do, you've got a bundle of thatch. The water that hits the thatch from the rain, you want it to run down the outside of the thatch, as opposed to actually hit the thatch when it's at a very, very low angle. It'll hit the thatch and then actually start dripping through the thatch, because there isn't enough of an angle for gravity to take it down off of the roof. And so you might find some roofs that are at a very, very low pitch have to be replaced quite frequently, as opposed to a much steeper pitched roof. The steeper the pitched roof, the more you get water runoff, and the longer the thatch will last. But this is a thatching grass that just this area around Vuitela Access Road and Zoe's Road is where there's a lot of this grass that grows very, very tall. And we're making our way onto the western edge of quarantine. We're going to go into quarantine. We might get to see what comes out onto quarantine in the evenings, and there might be something around. We've got also those 3 ellies to try and find if they haven't been down to Gowrie Dam. A very quiet evening, beautiful sunset. I want to try and get onto quarantine so we can see some of that sunset. Here. Get up to some of the highest ground that I can reach over here. Maybe we can see a bit of that sunset. Probably going to be around about the spot where we have our fireside chats on Sundays. Will be the best angle to view it. wish I could do better for now, but this is, or rather, I wish I could do better, but for now, this is the best view I can get of a really beautiful sunset. There's a little bit of cirrus, I think cirrus, in low cloud in the west or northwest, but a magnificent glow. Derek in the UK, good afternoon or good evening to you, Derek. And thanks for your question. Derek has seen a word, it's an Afrikaans word, a South African word mentioned. The word is wildtuin, which is the way it's pronounced, but it's written, if I had to say it phonetically, wildtuin, W-I-L-D, wild, T-U-I-N, tuin. Now, wild is directly translated to wild, and tuin is a garden, so you could say wildtuin is directly translated to wild garden, but it actually, its real translation is game reserve. So the Sabi Sand Wildtuin is actually the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. Derek? And the Kruger National Park would be the Kruger Nationale Wildtuin. That looks like a chemtrail, contrail. One of the Dubai flights. Hello, Marianne in Arkansas, wanting to know if that thatching grass we were talking about. Hardy does. Wanting to know if the thatching grass that we saw, whether that is food, whether it's, I suppose, Marianne, you're asking whether it's palatable or edible. It's neither. It's not, I suppose, in some ways it is edible, it's just not palatable. So no, nothing really eats it, and that's what makes thatched roofs quite safe from use by herbivores, because it isn't palatable. There are no nutrients in it, and apart from my roof that gets chewed up by rodents and squirrels, or other rodents and squirrels, to build their nests, the roofs last a long time. The roof on my house is, the base of the roof is probably about 50 years old, and probably would have done fine if I'd replaced it 15 years ago instead of just putting a new layer of thatch on. But by putting a new layer of thatch on, I've doubled the weight of the roof. The roof's pushing down, it's pushing the wall down. And it's something I'm going to have to deal with this winter, because I don't think it's going to stand up to another summer. The walls are actually going to collapse. I have a very round house, a big round, what we call a rondavel. And it's got a freestanding roof. There are no uprights, so the roof is actually resting on the walls. Quite a job on my hands for this winter, and there's nowhere to put all my furniture and all my books and everything, so somehow I've got to do it with everything inside the house. Aesthetically it's beautiful, it's lovely to live under thatch, but it is a nightmare to replace. Mr. Bear, James wants to know if there's ever an aerial census done of the animals. There is, James, actually every year around July, August, towards the end of the dry season. They wait until the visibility is the best, when most of the trees have lost their leaves. It's the best time to do a census, when we're able to find the large mammals from the air, and a plane would fly in a grid pattern. There's a very specific pattern that the pilot would fly. There have to be 3 spotters in the plane looking out the windows or looking out the door. Generally it's for things like elephant, buffalo, rhino, some of the smaller and I have this plane almost flying eye level with me on the deck. They fly up and down in a grid. I often see them from my deck at home. I wake up in the morning and I have this plane almost flying eye level with me on the deck. Because they do fly pretty low. On the snow, the Milwaukee River. Rusty on my grasses. We don't talk about grasses enough. It's not that it's not interesting, it's just that, I don't know what it is. Gone into a marula tree up there. As dark as it is, just the unmistakable shape and size of that bird. That was a pearl-spotted owlet. But a much heavier crown than this marula that I thought it went into. Oh well. Go a bit closer and see if we can find it. Maybe it flew much further on. It was hard to look at once it was against the dark. It's not a jackalberry either, it's an apple leaf. I was just guessing looking at it from a distance. So it's a rain tree. I'm going to look around Gowrie Dam, maybe head up to Buffalo's of Cockeye for a last little bit of drive, and in the meantime I'm going to go over to Scott. I'm sorry I couldn't find the owl for you again. But, with this beautiful post-sunset glow, I'm going to head over to Scott and I'll see you shortly before the end of the drive.
Welcome back, and It appears that both Mark and myself are having a tough time finding the animals that we are hoping to show this afternoon. The pearl-spotted owlet that Mark was looking for now is such a pretty little bird, and I often also find myself responding to their calls and trying to find them. Now, the tracks that we found on the last time you were with us, it's hard to decipher actually what's happened. The leopard was moving up and down. Another vehicle has driven down this road and erased some of the tracks that would have been vitally important in helping us to establish where he did go. Like I said, he was going up and down. So we're still just going to work around this area, stopping and listening every now and then, and hopefully he'll pop up at some stage. There were a lot of impala in the area, and he didn't seem too concerned or phased. He could be lying nearby watching them, but at the same time he could well have moved off. Rosie would like to know, good afternoon Rosie, and thanks for sending through your question, whether they were male or female tracks. They were male tracks. Now the few tracks that I saw look quite large. Now it's getting difficult to distinguish between the tracks of two young males, Djuma and Quarantine, with their father, a large male called Mvula. Either way, it is certainly a male. Whether it's Djuma or Mvula, I'm not entirely sure, or Quarantine perhaps, but he is in this area, so that's the good news, and we'll just keep snooping about and maybe we'll come across something. This certainly is an area where all three of those leopards that I've just been mentioning could very well be seen. Oh. A duiker just crossed the road in front of us. We'll try and get you a glimpse of it, but they are quite nervous and often don't hang around. But Brian's ready and poised, so we might get lucky. Well, a brief glimpse, and that was a fully grown antelope. Not very big, probably about knee high, and that certainly would be good prey for a leopard if there was one lurking here. So watch out, duiker. We feel there could be a leopard around. If a leopard was to catch a duiker and we did have the vehicle off, there's a strong chance we would hear the audio. Some antelopes will let out a distress call when they are caught by predators and others won't. A duiker is one that will let off a bleating cry if it is captured. And it was just a few weeks ago that we actually did find Djuma on a duiker kill. We had been following up on a report from the Djuma waterhole camera that a leopard had been seen that headed down below the dam wall, and we went into that area, looked around, couldn't find anything. It's very thick in that riverbed, and as we were leaving we heard the cry of a duiker, and we went back into the area and eventually found Djuma in a tree that he had hoisted the kill up into. That was shortly after he had finished feeding on a baboon that he had killed. So that lone male baboon that we did see waltzing down the road earlier, at least the tracks of him, he should be careful, because there is a leopard archer that we know for a fact can and will catch baboons. It's quite interesting because baboons can be very dangerous animals for leopards to catch. They live in troops, they've got very large canines, and leopards can sometimes be killed by baboons. Having said that, though, in some areas they will feed predominantly on baboons. It'll be a major food source for them. Here in the Sabi Sands, it's not really the case. I've seen very few leopards with baboon kills. Because over the years, the baboons have realized to be very confident and confrontational to the leopard, and that will often deter them. Here's some great information. When I couldn't hear the final control earlier, Nigel sent through a report when we were looking at the baboon tracks, saying he had seen the baboon at the Djuma waterhole just a few moments before we found those tracks, or sometime this afternoon. And thanks, Nigel, for sending that info through. And Nigel said the baboon seemed to be having a good time all on his own, despite me saying it wouldn't be very nice to be a lone baboon out here. He seemed comfortable and happy, so thanks for that update, Nigel. Michelle would like to know why a baboon would potentially be alone and no longer be accepted into a troop, and there's various reasons. Baboon troops are not actually dominated by one individual male. It's dominated by a gang of males, and that gang of males will compete with one another for ladies within the troop, but overall they'll stand together as the main men that will help look after and care for their ladies within the troop and their kids. Now, some members of the gang may at any stage decide to leave and look for another troop to join, but more often than not it'll be the young males from within a troop that will move off and look for new troops, and that way again ensure that fresh genetics are dispersed between different troops. So that could have been a male that had grown up, become sexually mature, now headed off in search of his own troop. So what will we find at the dam here? Please, could there be something here? Not looking promising at this stage.
You know that younger daughter that was part of Djuma yesterday, before those two black males came in, is at second rock moving north.
I've just had some very, very interesting information over the radio. And I just want to make sure what I'm hearing is correct. But basically it sounds like the young male, the Nkuhuma pride that we saw yesterday has a young male in it. It's about 3 years old. And the pride of lion, the Nkuhuma pride, headed north out of our property last night. We saw them actually leaving, heading in the direction of a large herd of buffalo. Then Mark found tracks this morning of two Matimba males heading straight in that direction, and they did join up with the pride. Now, interestingly enough, I've just heard reports on the radio saying that the young male from the Nkuhuma pride is all on his own, heading in the opposite direction, quite far away from the rest of the pride, are now with the fathers, the two males, the two dominant males. So it may have been that the two males, the father of that young 3-year-old male, have finally chased him out. And it's been something we've been talking about for a long time, because he has been coming of age and he's becoming a lot more sexually inquisitive, and that's no good because he's in a pride with his sisters and his mothers. So it was time for him to go, and it is harsh, but it sounds like he may have just been kicked out of the pride. He could rejoin once those males leave, but it's a process, and this process sounds like it started. Now, again, that's just what I heard on the radio. I could be wrong, and I will double check it with Aubrey if they do manage to relocate on the Nkuhuma Pride this evening. They did find them this morning, but nobody's had any luck this afternoon. Anyway, some interesting behavior, potentially. I prefer to believe it when I see it, such as the messages we get can often be a little bit confusing. So bear that in mind, but that is what I just heard. Okay. But if we do too much of this, you'll all get seasick out there. But these are insect-eating bats. They're very small. You do also get fruit-eating bats in this area, but we don't see them very often. Or in this general area, I should rather say. And look at how beautiful the new moon is rising up to the west. It's an extremely thin sliver. And this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful view. Look at that. And I hope you enjoyed the beautiful views of this new moon. And Angela's just sent through a question from Boston. Good evening, Angela. Angela would like to know whether the dams are ever clean enough for humans to swim in, and if so, what are the dangers? I wouldn't mind swimming in this dam right now, to be honest. It's not very clean, but it's not going to cause major health issues to us in all likelihood. And if I was confident that there was no hippos and no crocodiles in this dam, then there wouldn't be any major threats of swimming in here. But those are the two key threats to watch out for when swimming in any stretch of water in Africa. Hippos can be a little bit easier to see. Obviously, if you stay here long enough and one doesn't poke its head out after 5 minutes, you know there's none in here because they can only hold their breath for that long. Crocodiles, on the other hand, you cannot trust. They are animals that can disappear and be very stealthy, and certain people have been caught out before because they think that they've been to a dam every day for so many days and never seen a crocodile there. They go for a swim. The swim ends badly because a crocodile latches onto them. So these things do happen, and you do have to be very, very careful. As we've experienced up at Buffelshoek Dam, there was no crocodile there for about 4 months. Then all of a sudden, one day, one appeared. One certainly big enough to eat a human. It spent about 2 weeks there. Potentially it swapped out with another one, we're not too sure. And then it left and it was gone. And that means it would have arrived at another dam where it was probably not also, people wouldn't have known it was there either. So those are the, excuse me, dangers of swimming out here. The water will never be very fresh and clean, even in the rainy season when more fresh water will be falling. There won't necessarily be, it won't be much cleaner than it is now. Okay, well, we've been stationary here for quite a while, haven't heard any clues or signs, and we're going to continue on. But before we start, you may as well hop over to Mark's vehicle and see what he's been up to for the last few minutes. Hopefully he's had some luck. If not, we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
I don't want to shine on him, but we've got one of our local zebras here. He's a stallion that's been wandering around on his own for whatever reason, only he knows. Just going to bounce some light off of the bottom of the grasses onto him. They don't really like to shine on some of the diurnal animals. It's not quite dark yet, but it is getting there. There's still a little bit of a late post-sunset glow. And maybe if I put that on, it doesn't make much difference. A little bit of a difference nearby. But one thing I wanted to show you, if we can just get beyond this little marula tree in front of us, is I've been anticipating new moon, and I've also been anticipating, well, new moon has passed, but anticipating the first sliver of the sickle of our waxing crescent. And it is there in the sky. We can see Venus. There it is, just under the marula. Right now we're on a termite mound, so bent out of shape up there. In the distance, lying on its back, obviously pointing to where the sun is, just below the horizon. This is the first sliver of a new moon. Light up the trees.
Again, no problem.
Gilly or Jelly in Wisconsin saying, could the lack of animals have anything to do with the new radios because they make funny noises that can travel quite far? No, not at all, Dilly. Absolutely not. Nothing to do with the radios whatsoever. The only thing it does have to do with the new radios is that we're not able to get Arathusa on the radio, so we don't know what is going on at Arathusa, and we can't communicate with them at the moment. So we might be missing out on Tingana and Shadow and her cub, and maybe whatever lions have been at Arathusa. Let me put my headlights on. That'll be better. But over the sound of the vehicle, the engines of the vehicle, and all the other noises that come with the vehicle, whether it's our voices or it's the noise of the radio, none of this has any bearing on the presence of animals or the lack of animals. Animals have all grown accustomed to remain in the south. To the east of us we have cheetah cutcloud, to the west of us we have the privately owned land, and we don't have permission to drive on those properties. So positive today has got something to do with the clearer skies and the colder temperatures that we've experienced over the last 24 hours or 48 hours, and partly to do with the fact that there just simply isn't anything here. Overnight we could get a herd of elephants and find a giraffe again this afternoon, although I was doing a bunch of circles around Sydney's Dam hoping that I would find them again. I did find their tracks again, but I didn't find them. And then also all these leopards that have been leaving tracks. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. maybe we've lost picture again. And somehow there's something wrong with the satellite. Somewhere up there. The aliens are playing with it. The gremlins are there, or something's affecting our signal this evening, and it sounds like that maybe just a loss of picture. Hopefully you can still hear me. We're on Zoe's Road. I'm heading back towards WildEarthTV Access Road. And also some tweets coming into hashtag Safari Live saying that there are some of you that are getting sound but no picture. On Zoe's Road, we're coming up to WildEarthTV Access Road shortly. We're coming through this area where there's all the thatching grass, so it's quite tall grasses. Not easy to see through the tall grasses with light, because the light reflects back at us. It's easier to see through these thatching grasses during the day. So we're going to go back up WildEarthTV Access Road and have a look around. Sometimes when we've had tracks of a leopard, it's hard to see them during the day because they're either asleep or they're hiding in the grasses. But in the evenings, they're likely to maybe wake up, lift their heads, and it might be easier with a light to actually pick them up because we pick up the reflection in their eyes. This wonderful adaptation that animals have that allow them better night vision is having a reflective layer of light cells, or reflective layer of cells rather, at the back of the eye that reflect more light into the eye than what we receive as humans, so they are able to see better. But the key is that it reflects these glowing eyes. And sometimes if we can't see a leopard during the day, it's sometimes easier to see it when night falls because we can get that reflection in the eye. There's a reflection, but the Dacre. Saying one of the Matimbas is actually heading south from that airstrip, and that would be probably heading into Torchwood. You know, it just needs to come a little bit west. So it might be a good idea to head back to our eastern boundary tomorrow morning towards Cheetah Cut Line. And maybe the Matimbas are going to make their way back this way. I'm going to have to let a car go by. There's a car behind me, it's left to find a spot to pull over. Okay. Staff going home. Much about, and it's not so much that it's hard for us, it's just that it's difficult to portray to you, the viewers, how wonderful this world is when we don't have, oh, there's a bush baby, when we don't have the wildlife to show for it. But they'll come out of the woodwork eventually, and hopefully we will be able to see them. We've had a lot of leopard tracks today, so we'll be able to follow up on a lot of the leopard tracks tomorrow with a little bit of luck. And well, that is another day. The fortunate thing I think about this whole thing is that you're not here for a 3-night stay and you And I have to say, for those guests that are here for these few nights, they're not seeing very much other than the kahumas that are up on Littlehood. But at least for us, we get to do this every day. So what we don't see today, we've got a good chance of seeing tomorrow. So I'm going to say good night to you from myself and, well, from Vim as well. And we will see you again tomorrow morning at 6:30 Central African time. Our time as the breaking dawn offers up its secrets. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all your input. Thanks for all the questions during the day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Love you lots.
Welcome back, everyone. And it's the end of another wonderful day out exploring Djuma Private Game Reserve here in the Sabi Sands. I hope you've enjoyed your afternoon with us. We've just got a question through from Charlie on Twitter. Good evening, Charlie. And thanks for sending your question through. Charlie would like to know whether this young male lion who's in the process of being booted out of his pride will remain on his own, or will he try and join up with other males to form a coalition? That would be the ideal. And if he's lucky, he will find other young males of a similar age that will accept him into their coalition. It could just be one other lone male that he joins up with. There's no other males that I know of that he could join up with. I think the Birmingham boys wouldn't accept him into their coalition. They're a little bit older than him and already quite established with 5 of them. So for now, he is in the unfortunate position that he could be up against everything else on his own. So it'll be interesting to watch what happens. He could well disappear far away from us over the next few weeks or months, and we may never know what comes of him. But it is normal for lion, and it's the way things work. Nature can be harsh, but it's a necessity. Fathers cannot tolerate a son that is becoming sexually mature around his mother and sisters, because genetically that is not going to work out too well in the long run. Thanks very much for sending that question through, though, and it really will be interesting to monitor and get updates on that young male from the Kahuma Pride over the coming weeks. He is apparently heading back into their area of the rest of the pride, so he's lurking around there, and he'll try and stay close by until the 2 Matimba males as fathers move off, which they could well do, possibly even this evening, and then he may reunite with the pride. But it'll come a point in time where their aggression to him will probably scare him off completely, and only time will tell, though. Anyway, from myself, Scott Dyson, and Brian on camera, thanks very much for following us this afternoon. Sorry that you can't see anything at the moment and you can only hear us. And also thanks to Nikki and Tara in Final Control. There's a hyena calling, so we're going to keep quiet. Goodbye, and we'll see you all in the morning.